Significant challenges lie ahead regarding Europe's transition towards a decarbonised energy system that meets the economic and social needs of its citizens. We are constantly using energy to light and heat our homes, to wash, to power our appliances. By adopting more sustainable practices, we can reduce our energy use and related carbon emissions. This may sound simple, but once we scratch below the surface, we quickly discover that practices are inherently complex, deep-rooted, culturally ingrained, and difficult to change.
The ENERGISE project is leading the way in generating new insights and recommendations for research, policy and practice in the area of residential energy use. Working directly with academics, householders, practitioners, businesses and policymakers, the project has been instrumental in developing a greater understanding of how and why people use energy in their everyday lives and to what effect.
Rather than viewing energy as simply a product that households consume, ENERGISE views energy use as a consequence of the performance of the many different habits and routines that people engage in on a regular basis, such as heating, cooking, cleaning, entertainment and travel, etc. The reasons behind why people perform and indeed continue to perform these practices and the way in which they perform them are important to understand, as they may reveal opportunities for change to occur that results in reduced energy use in the future.
We were interested in learning from existing sustainable energy consumption initiatives. So we reviewed and assessed more than 1,000 initiatives across Europe. We've placed an overview of all of these initiatives on our ENERGISE webpage in an interactive map where you can learn about the initiatives in terms of their description and their objectives, and you can see how we've categorized them according to our problem framing typology. Because it matters what type of problem framing different initiatives are carried out through.
In our analysis of over 1,000 existing sustainable energy initiatives, we found that 3/4 of these initiatives are rooted in a theory of change, which emphasises the importance of individual behaviour and technical solutions. In contrast, there is a very minor role for policy interventions that address the social and institutional dynamics that underpin individual choices and behaviour. In this project, we design and implement initiatives called ENERGISE Living Labs, which are adapted to the task of changing practices which are rooted in everyday activities.
Living Lab is an intervention type that enables testing novel everyday practices with households in real-life contexts. We formed 2 ENERGISE Living Labs in each country, individual and community living lab, to see whether there are differences in changing routines and habits if people receive peer support or not. As the first step of designing ENERGISE Living Labs, we chose the sites of the experimentation and the intervention methods. As the second step, we invited participants and met with each of the household. As the third step, participants tested new ways to keep warm and clothes clean. As the fourth step, we met households again and reflected on the experiment. And as the last step, we evaluated the outcomes and shared the results with wider community.
We are responsible for leading work package for the ENERGISE Living Labs. This work package centers around the international rollout of 2 types of living labs that targets individuals and communities. An online monitoring platform was developed to monitor the experiences and the energy use of in total of 320 participants over 16 living labs in 8 countries in the second half of 2018. The application of the Sustainability Assessment Toolkit, which was designed in Work Package 3, ensured effective monitoring of the living lab's impact and generated data for cross-national comparison.
The University of Geneva led the work package on comparing how changes took place across the 300 households engaged in the ENERGISE Living Labs. What we found is that it is possible to change practices rather than changing people. Instead of focusing on individual behavior change and telling people what to do, if you give people a space for experimentation and you challenge them to go out of their comfort zones, we found that people are able to both reduce their laundry cycles and reduce indoor temperatures. What was quite interesting with the project is that we had a emphasis on social norms, and what we found is that people can reduce by 1 degree at least their indoor temperature without feeling any discomfort, and can reduce by 1 laundry cycle per week without feeling in any way unclean.
We're responsible for leading Work Package 6 on policy integration for the ENERGISE project. Now, one of the main things that we do is to synthesize the findings from across the various work packages on behalf of ENERGISE in a way that's going to be meaningful to policymakers and the practitioners out there. We are concerned, for example, to think about what guidance practitioners might need in terms of designing energy initiatives at the local and national level. And we're also thinking about how we can reflect on the impact of the work based on our engagement with people in our policy and decision-making forum. And it's been a real pleasure on this project to work with a range of policymakers and practitioners to think about the impact and practical application of the work.
In ENERGISE, our most important task was to coordinate communication and dissemination activities. It's very important that we also get our message and results out to decision makers, including policymakers and business leaders. So we made a big effort to involve them in our expert panel so that they could participate and observe the project and also contribute to the project from the beginning to the end. We have been quite successful with press releases. Living Lab members and the research team was on the national TV in Switzerland. In Hungary we have been featured on several radio programs. In Finland and Germany, interesting discussions were stimulated by articles published in local and national papers. It was also important for us to walk the talk, as we have been doing the Sustainable Energy Project. So we made sure that our publications are published in the most environmentally way possible. And in Hungary, even planted trees to compensate for the carbon footprints of Living Lab events with the help of Living Lab participants, of course.
Working with over 30 researchers from 10 partner countries across Europe and exploring the variations in practices and energy use among our research participants has been a fascinating journey. We gratefully acknowledge the support of the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Programme, which enabled us to undertake a really comprehensive exploration of a cutting-edge research topic.
The 3-year ENERGISE project has been extremely fruitful, producing a range of outputs and deliverables, including a book, journal publications, policy reports, energy challenge toolkits, for a variety of different audiences. In particular, the ENERGISE Living Lab process has been really insightful, not only for our householders and participants, but also for us as researchers. We hope that you find the material we've produced useful and are prompted to learn more about ENERGISE and our methodology.